So-called experts love to pontificate on the amount of ammunition preppers should stockpile. Some say 500 rounds per gun, others say 1,000, still others scoff and say those numbers are child's play. This video looks at real-world data to cut through the BS and determine what a smart investment in ammo really looks like. There are 4 primary rationales used for stockpiling ammunition: self-defense, hunting, militia activities, and perhaps the worst idea ever, using ammo for barter. First, self-defense. In 2018, only a minuscule percentage of US citizens actually fired guns in self-defense. Cops confront criminals daily, but most have never fired their weapons in the line of duty. Smart preppers also know to avoid gunfights like the plague. But if you must fight, it's good to know how many shots you should expect to fire when guns are drawn. A New York City police report based on more than 3,600 shooting incidents showed that cops fire an average of only 2.9 shots per incident. Claude Werner surveyed close to 500 successful firearm self-defense reports, 36% of which involved multiple assailants. He found successful civilian defenders fire an average of only 2 shots per incident. Elefritz studied more than 1,700 real-world gunfights. He determined that all weapon types incapacitate aggressors with an average of less than 2 head or torso hits. There will always be outliers on the high end, but that's 3 different real-world sources with large sample sizes, all saying you can expect to fire an average of 3 or fewer shots in the rare event you are ever in a self-defense gunfight. But that's today. What about after SHTF? The American Wild West, with its homegrown law enforcement, guns, gangs, and violence, is the best historical example we have of a real SHTF-like situation. Here are the Wild West's most prolific gunfighters and their legendary kill counts. Now, here are their actual, historically verified numbers of kills. It's important to understand that these men represent the extreme highs of gunfight participation for the time. By today's standards, they would all be considered psychopaths. Out of these 5 record-setting Wild West killers, only 2 are verified to have been in more than 10 gunfights. So, 10 gunfights times an average of 3 shots per fight comes to just 30 rounds. Even if you panic every time and fire an average of 10 rounds per gunfight, that's still only 100 bullets. It's the folks playing too many video games that think you need more than that for self-defense. One more thing. It turns out murdering lots of people has some fairly predictable consequences. Next up, hunting. Just because you plan to hunt, it does not mean you're going to be successful. More than 105,000 hunters registered for the Oregon 2017 deer season. Only 25,000 deer were harvested that year. That means more than 80,000 hunters went home empty-handed. Finding game will only get harder during SHTF because every fool with a 9mm pistol or a shotgun will also be out there trying to murder animals. The Alabama DNR notes that deer were almost hunted to extinction in that state during the Great Depression. Given these stats, you don't really want to rely on gun hunting as your sole source of protein. Trapping, fishing, and raising livestock are much more reliable and don't consume non-renewable resources. But let's imagine there is game available and you are luckier or more skilled than 75% of hunters. The next question is, how many deer can you expect to harvest? The Ohio DNR did a study on successful hunters. They found that only 27% bagged more than 1 deer, and less than 1% bagged more than 5. 5 deer, by the way, can be turned into close to 1,000 meals. Now, good hunters know 5 shots are required to harvest the first deer of the season, 4 to zero their weapon and 1 to kill the animal. This means that the most elite deer hunters will fire about 10 rounds per season. The vast majority of folks will fire 4 to 6. If the SHTF scenario lasts 30 years, you wouldn't need much more than 300 hunting cartridges. A hunting strategy based on small game like rabbits would require obvious adjustments. If you are prepping for an event that lasts longer than 30 years, it would be wise to invest in hunting technologies with naturally renewable ammunition, like bows or blowguns. Remember, humans somehow managed to survive for hundreds of thousands of years before firearms were invented. Next, militia actions. Let's be clear. Fighting a personally funded militia war against an invading modern military force is an absolute dead-end strategy. The government's resources and equipment will always be vastly superior to whatever you can scrape together as a civilian. The notion that a civilian AR-15 and a 200-round combat load can blaze a path to victory against a modern military force is nothing but a glorious fantasy. In 2018, Afghan militia fighters managed to kill only 14 of the 8,475 U.S. troops stationed there. Of those 14, just 6 soldiers were killed by small arms fire. 6. That means despite firing hundreds of thousands of rounds, militia riflemen only managed to kill a pathetic 0.0007% of the military force occupying their country. The fact that modern military forces are equipped with level 4 body armor is a key reason for the spectacular failure of militia riflemen. This protection is specifically designed to stop 5.56 and 7.62 rounds. Considering the state of the modern battlefield, it wouldn't matter if you hoarded 1,000,000 rounds of AR-15 ammo. Those munitions are simply not effective against today's soldiers. You might as well stockpile spitballs. If your survival is important to you, armor is a much smarter investment than ammunition. Sniping is the one potentially effective militia rifle strategy. The greatest sniper of all time is Simu Haya. Finnish military records show that he tallied 259 sniper kills against the Russians during the Winter War of 1939. His sniping career ended after only 119 days when he was shot in the face and permanently disfigured. So, if you think you can match the very best sniper in the history of mankind, you won't need more than 300 rounds to prove it. Finally, some people stockpile ammo thinking they will use it to barter with. This is a terrible idea. Bartering with ammo will primarily attract 2 types of customers. First, the desperately unprepared. People with no ammo are not likely to have anything else of value to trade to a well-prepared person, and you've got to ask yourself what they plan to do with the ammo you give them. Do you really want to top off the magazines of all the random desperate souls who wander through your community? Common sense dictates that you should never barter away something that can be used to kill you. That brings up the second group, the dangerous. These folks will be looking for ammo because they use a lot of it. That means they're likely criminals or those prone to violence. Bartering out ammo to them is about as smart as setting up a free-range rattlesnake ranch next to a daycare center. The worst part of bartering ammo is that it is a bright, shining advertisement to criminals saying that you are the one who has exactly what they want most. That's not a theory. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms says thieves often see gun dealers as easy targets. Their data shows gun store thefts are rising, and the smash and grab techniques are growing more bold. These fellas didn't let anything stop them from getting what they wanted. During SHTF, will you have the security to stop a raid like this? They were in and out in 30 seconds. Why would you invite this kind of trouble when the world is already awash with chaos? Finally, if you think through the problem of paying soldiers and guards, you will understand why no one in history has ever used ammunition as currency. So, how much ammo should you stockpile? That answer is easy. Stockpile as much as you want to. Just don't get fooled into buying more than you really need.